thinking of buying a Jeep Wrangler, chances are you're thinking about doing some serious off-roading. And look, to be honest, if you're not going to do any off-roading, then this is probably not the car for you, especially the top spec Rubicon variant that I'm driving now. This is the 4-door version, so it does provide some practicality for touring and going on nice big family road trips or off-road trips. You've got a decent sized boot with a side hinge tailgate or split tailgate, so you can actually open the bottom bit and just access stuff in the boot nice and easily, and then a flip up hatch lid for the glass panel. The roll bars or roll cage does take up a bit of room, but you've got a 12-volt socket back here and a little bit of storage under the floor. But yeah, look, on the road, these are not the most refined SUV on sale. Like, there's a bit of steering play on center, so you can move it a little bit before anything actually happens. It's got big chunky off-road tires. They make a bit of road roar and a bit of noise when you're driving along, especially on the highway at highway speeds. But these things are important and useful when you're off-roading. Like, you don't want steering that's too sensitive, because you might be in a tight technical situation and you just want to make little adjustments, or you hit a bump or something like that, and it's not going to completely change the direction of the car. This has live axle suspension front and rear, which is quite unique for a 2026 vehicle. Again, this is going to help with off-roading. The Rubicon version also has front and rear diff locks and a detachable front sway bar. Despite the kind of on-road shortcomings, the Wrangler is actually quite entertaining to drive, or I think it is anyway. You've got this kind of cartoonish interior, really good quality too. Like, there's hardly any scratchy plastics around the place. Even all down the dash here, that's kind of a leather or leatherette across the top as well. Got little rubber padded storage areas, even the cup holders in the middle. There's not all that much storage. You do have a center box, an armrest and twin cup holders, but apart from that, that's about it. You've also got netted pockets on the doors, which are kind of useful as bottle holders, I guess, as long as your bottle is not too big. And in the back, you've got decent leg room, and headroom is okay, but the roll bar system running through the middle does take up a little bit of space, and mainly the perception of space. So you're kind of looking at it as you're sitting in the back, and it does, yeah, it feels like it's in the way, even though it's not really. But you do have twin climate vents down there and charging options, cup holders as well on a flip down armrest. I think the short wheelbase one is a little bit more fun to drive on the road and off the road, I guess, because it's got a better breakover angle. But yeah, it's just the shortness of it makes it feel very agile. You just turn around, it feels like you could do a U-turn in very small radius. Ride quality is okay. You can kind of feel that it is flexible under there. There's a bit of movement, bit of body roll, but the comfort is actually pretty good for a hardcore off-roader, and certainly compared with a dual cab ute with live axle and leaf springs at the back, whereas this does have coils all around. So yeah, you've got the absorption capability of springs and the comfort of springs, but yeah, you've just got a bit of flex happening through the bodywork. Visibility is really good. You've got a perched up view. The window sills are quite low, so you can see over the edge easily, and the doors are actually quite thin. Same with the A-pillars, quite thin. You can see around it. And the view at the back is decent, although you do have that roll cage kind of hanging down a little bit. But you know the back of the car is just completely squared off, so it's easy to park. It's not as long as the Rubicon-based Gladiator ute. This is actually a more conventional size, so yeah, parking is not an issue. Under the bonnet, we've got a 2-litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine. I think it is better than the old V6, purely because it uses less fuel, but also, even though power is slightly down at around 200 kilowatts, it does have more torque, and more torque is available lower in the rev range, which I think is beneficial for an off-roader. Like, you don't want to be revving it out, aside from on the sand perhaps, but in most conditions, yeah, you want low down grunt, low down torque. And that's what this provides. It's matched up to an 8-speed automatic transmission with rear-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, including a 4-wheel drive auto mode, so you can actually drive on dry tarmac with the security and grip of 4-wheel drive. And in terms of performance and acceleration out on the road, this definitely does feel more grunty than the V6. Like, the V6 is a nice engine in my opinion, like, it sounds pretty good, it's got that kind of peaky top end, but in a vehicle like this, it doesn't quite match. Just show you the kind of kick down with this. Slow down to about 60 or 50 kilometers an hour, full throttle. Yeah, you can feel that kind of turbo surge pushing you along. I feel like it does have better kick-down performance or overtaking performance compared with getting off the line. I mean, there's a lot working against this. Big chunky off-road tyres, brick-like aerodynamics. So the performance figures you'll see coming up at the end of the video are probably not going to be that impressive, but out on the road it doesn't quite feel like the 0 to 100 time, if that makes sense. Like, it feels a little bit quicker than what the actual time is. So of course what we all want to know is, how good is it off-road? Look, I think none of the tracks here are going to be a challenge for this, but we'll take them all on anyway. We'll go up the Beast section there. I struggled a bit with the Gladiator going up that, but I think it was mainly due to the overall length of that model compared with this. This should be a bit more agile, but also it was in the wet, so today is completely dry. It hasn't rained for a while. It does look like it's going to rain, but yeah, it's actually a fully dry surface. We'll chuck it straight into the low range and just get down to business. I'll take on these first tracks and the one over there. That's test out the breakover angle mainly, and then we'll get stuck into the Beast. Okay, so that's in low range now. I haven't touched the stability control button. It's gone into its own mode or turned itself off. Let's see how we go up this first section. I haven't let air out of the tires. I don't think it will struggle anyway, but if you want some more grip, yeah, sure, you can let some air out of the tires. I don't tend to do that because I want to see how stock vehicles behave back to back. I don't actually care about getting to the top. I want to see how easily they do it, or see how well they do it. So this is with the diff locks not engaged, and it's getting up no problem at all. No excessive wheel spin, nothing. Okay, going back down, we can engage the off-road mode, and this will help us go down without feet on the pedals. It's just going to take us down very gradually and very controlled. It's kind of like cruise control, but for off-roading. Uphill and downhill, it will work. Look at that, it's very controlled, no wheel slip or anything. Even though it is very slippery, this surface. As you can see, there's lots of rocks everywhere. Turn the parking sensors off. Yeah, there's rocks everywhere, so it just makes it very, very slippery. Even though it is quite steep, we're at 18 degrees at the moment, 19 degrees, it's the rocks everywhere that make it even more challenging. You can hear a few creaks and so on from the interior trim. I mean, you can take these roof panels off, and whenever you've got a connection, that's just going to, introduce a potential rattle or squeak. So with that functionality, it's cool. You can't do that with many other SUVs in this class. Any, I don't think, but not that I can think of. So you've got that functionality, but yeah, you've just got to sacrifice a little bit of refinement. This right-hand side section now, and this is more about suspension flexibility, basically, because you've got these moguls that are diagonally positioned, and we're going to have to see how well or how far those wheels drop down into the ditches. You want them to drop right down, because making contact with the ground, that's where traction is, obviously. So we'll see how it goes. I still haven't engaged the diff locks. I've just got it in the low range, and I haven't touched the ESC button at all. I doubt this is going to scrub as well. We've got decent ground clearance. A little bit of wheel spin, but it got on top of that. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm just easing it up. Not even, about a quarter of the throttle. Alright, now this section here, this is more about the top. It has a very sharp breakover point, so we'll see if the mid section of the car scrapes out. I don't think it will. It's got very high side steps on it as well. So yeah, it's all designed and set up for this sort of stuff. It is quite slippery because you've got these big rock surfaces or big boulders kind of sticking out, and it does put a bit of pressure on the traction or available traction, so we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm still in just low range. I haven't even touched the diff locks yet. I just want to see how it behaves, see how it copes. Look at that, no problem at all. As you'd expect, really. I did just touch something underneath, probably the gearbox bracket or some sort of protection plate. Only just nipped it. But yeah, I haven't driven many vehicles up that have not scraped going over the top. You need a very short wheelbase vehicle for it to not scrape. I mean, the short wheelbase version of this would have no problem at all, I think. And going down this little section on the right, we've got a steep drop off. Probably doesn't look that steep on camera, but it's probably 1 meter high. We'll get the rear left wheel off the ground. We'll just test out that flexibility again. So yeah, it doesn't really feel like the wheel's off the ground at all, actually. Side steps nowhere near. Touching. Very good. All right, now the beast. Let's engage the diff locks. Front and rear. Little symbol will come up on the dash saying front and rear locked. And we do have the off-road plus mode to go, and we've got the sway bar disconnect. But as a commenter pointed out with the Gladiator review that I did, sometimes disconnecting the sway bar isn't a good idea because it provides too much travel, and which yeah, sometimes does not help in certain situations anyway. In this situation, we'll just try it without the sway bar first. I mean, let's leave it as it is first, and then if we struggle, then we can activate, yeah, the sway bar and the off-road plus mode, and we can even try out that cruise control function as well. Front and rear diff locks, low range, and that's it. Just easing it up, gentle on the throttle. Jeez, it feels really flexible. The body's staying level. Just touch the side step a little bit, but look at that. I'm not even pushing it at all. Just quarter throttle, easing up, no problem whatsoever. That is awesome. Okay, let's do that again because why not? That just felt really good going up there. I could feel the body, you know, just staying relatively level, and then the suspension doing its magic underneath and really flexing around. Whereas most vehicles I go up, I'm rocking all over the place. The front end is pointing to the sky, whereas that just felt very controlled, very stable. We'll disconnect the sway bar just to see if this makes any difference, to make it easier or harder, just to see. By the way, my fuel consumption is 12.7 if you're wondering. I think you could get that down a little bit lower with regular use. That's after doing performance testing and a bit of off-roading. Yeah, with regular use, probably in the suburbs and in the country roads and so on, I think is probably the best environment for it. On the highway, not so much, because you've got to push over those big tires and barge through with the square aerodynamics. But yeah, 12.7, I think that's a lot better than what you get in the V6. Now let's see how we go with the sway bar disconnected. Same line, same speed, just gently on the throttle. I can feel it flexing around. This is where they usually get stuck. No problem at all. Look, even that, I'm sure you can sense it as well. The bonnet is just staying relatively flat. Scraping out a little bit there on the belly, but yeah, the bonnet's just staying really flat. If you look at any of my other videos going up that section, you'll see the nose is like pointing all over the place, whereas that was remaining very, very level. There we go. As you probably expected, and I kind of expected it as well, that was absolutely awesome. It took on all of these lines with no problem at all. I think it's the best factory vehicle I've taken up this beast section because it just walked up with no problem. And I like the way that the body remained very level, so I could feel the suspension doing its work, flexing around. As I said, if you're thinking about buying a Wrangler, especially the Rubicon, make sure you are intending to go off-road, because otherwise you're just wasting the capability of this thing, and you're going to be spending a lot on petrol and tires with no real benefit of that. Whereas if you take it off-road, then suddenly it becomes a sacrifice or a compromise that, yes, you're using a bit of petrol, you're spending a bit on tires, but it will get you through stuff like this, and you can really enjoy driving in pretty relative safety and control. Like, I didn't feel nervous at all. Usually when I'm coming up here, I feel a little bit nervous because I'm just, rocking all over the place. It is steeper than what it looks on camera as well. But yeah, in that, it was a walk in the park. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes. I have tested the two-door version, so this being a little bit heavier, I suspect it will be a little bit slower.